Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Core Class Autobot Hot Rod. So as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging. And we'll start right up here at the top, and you've got that really cool Hot Rod artwork. You've got Transformers Legacy. There's your big gaping hole. Coming on down here, you've got the Legacy logo. He is Autobot Hot Rod. Transformers up the side. You've got that artwork over here. On the back, you get your product shots. He converts in 8 steps. You have all your warnings over here. You do have the sad baby, and I think we all know why the baby's sad. That's right, because Optimus Prime died because of Hot Rod. And you got some more information down here. Over here on the side, you've got that artwork. He is a core class. And down low, you've got some additional information if you want to read it. So that is it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box with Hot Rod, and we will start with your little sheet of warnings. And then you get your instruction booklet, and that leaves you with the one and only accessory, which is his sword. So let's go ahead and bring that in and take a look at that. See those details on there. So this looks like a kind of a blue energy sword. It's an interesting color of blue, and I do like the, almost looks like lightning in there. I think that's a pretty good look. And the rest of it is just the red molded plastic, but there's a decent amount of detail in there, particularly for a core class. And then you flip it over here, and then you've got that 3mm port, and then on the end you have a 3mm peg, and you can use that in a few different places on Hot Rod's person. But yeah, there it is. Not the most intricate thing, but it works. I find it curious that they had a sword as an accessory for this guy instead of some type of gun, but yeah, this isn't the worst thing I've seen. Alright, so that is it for the accessories. Let's go ahead and bring Hot Rod in and take a look at his details. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting for. This is the Legacy Core Class Hot Rod. So before we get started, I just want to point out that this is the exact same figure as the War for Cybertron Kingdom Core Class Hot Rod. It's just re-released in that Legacy packaging, and for me, this works out really well because I never had an opportunity to get my hands on the Kingdom Core Class. So I was able to snatch up this Legacy Core Class and bring him to you today. So let's go ahead and bring him in for those details and take a look. And we'll start right up here with that head. And keeping in mind that he is a Core Class and he's a pretty small dude, I think what we see here as far as the sculpt work looks pretty good. I mean, that's a tiny, tiny face, and you've got a good amount of detail on there. So no real complaints there. You know, would have been nice to maybe have had a splash of paint up on his crest on the top of his head, but I think overall it looks pretty good. And then coming down to that chest, you've got that flame job and that tiny Autobot logo. And then coming down to that crotch, not a lot going on there, but you do have these thigh guards. I guess he's gonna put pads on and go play some American football. And then coming down, he's got his huge lower legs, so he didn't skip leg day, at least for the lower part. You got a little bit of detail in there. And if you look on the inside, you know, there's a lot of hollow going on, but it is due to the transformation right here. So this is a transformation joint where this is consumed into this area when he's in his vehicle mode. So I guess I can't really complain about hollow areas when it comes to that, particularly with him being a core class. So let me move his arm out of the way so we can see the side here. And you do have his exhaust pipes there, and then you've got those wheels on those ugly mushroom pegs. I hate mushroom pegs. And then you've got the folded up car back here that makes up his calves. And then right here on those thighs, looks pretty good. He does get a little hollow up in here, mostly just folding up this back area. But it's mostly covered up by his arm, so I guess I'm not going to worry too much about that. Again, keeping in mind he is a core class. Doing my best here to try to show you the inside of his arm. He's got a couple of hollow areas there, but nothing major, and there is some detail in there, which is nice. And then he's got those teeny tiny hands and a little bit of sculpt work right there. And got his little tire right there on his bicep, makes his biceps look bigger. And then up here on the shoulder, you get a little bit of detail. And then over here on the side, that's just the outside of the car, basically. And coming around and looking at him from the back, he's not bad. It's okay. It doesn't excite me by any means, but it's okay. You've got this back area right here, so you do have a little bit of blast effect compatibility with that port right there. So you can have Starscream shooting him in the back, which is what Starscream does. And then you've got that 3mm port back here for a flight stand or any other accessories. And then you just got a little bit of detail on the backs of those legs, and then the ball joint right there. But this bottom area looks pretty good. It's a little thick, but it looks pretty good. So I would say overall, from a look standpoint, he's not bad. He doesn't excite me, but he's not a bad looking figure at all. So let's go ahead and jump into that articulation. Not a lot to talk about here, unfortunately. I do have to say that I'm disappointed in his articulation, and also I'll show when we get to that point, but I'm also disappointed in the looseness of those knee joints. But let's go ahead and get started with that. So at that head, you can turn that head left and right, and you can take it around if you want to, so you can see that hollow area. I know everybody has a problem with the hollow area in the back of the head. You know, you don't see it. You just simply don't. I know we're talking about articulation, but when he's right here, you know, even at an angle, that wing, most of this covers it up, so I don't sweat it too much on that. But that head will go all the way around, and that's really all that you're going to get on that guy. And then when you come down here to the shoulder, this is where his limited articulation really shows itself. You get about that much on this joint. Now, you can raise it up here, so you've got a secondary joint right in there where you can raise it up, but really, you're just not getting much in this shoulder joint itself. You can take it all the way around if you choose to do so. And then down here at the elbow, because that's on a ball joint, you're going to get, for your bicep angle, you're going to get about 90 degrees on that. And then your rotation, you can go all the way around if you want to. Now, these joints are nice and tight. The shoulder joints are pretty tight. I'm not too concerned about them at all. And then down here at the hips, I'm going to move these arms up and kind of give him, it's kind of a cool dance move. Down here at the hips, these are fairly tight, so I have no major issues, no major concerns with that. I still don't like ball joints in my hips or my shoulders, but it is what it is. So you can bring those legs out about that far, and you do have a little bit of rotation just on that ball. So you're not going to get many degrees, but you can get a few degrees, and then you can kick forward. Let me bring his other leg down. You can kick forward about that far, and you can kick backward that far. So good range of motion as far as that goes. And then coming down here to these knees, I'm so disappointed. These knees are super loose on mine. It doesn't take hardly anything at all to move them. It's only a matter of time before just the weight of the rest of his leg starts causing me some stability issues. They twist too easy. They float around too easy. So, yeah, not happy about that at all. But as far as the knee bend itself goes, you can get just under 90. And then you have a point of rotation at that knee that you can use as well. And nothing at the feet, but this is very much what concerns me. If I hold him and I do this, then you can see that happens. So, yeah, articulation is meh. It's I don't like the way that these shoulders work. He doesn't have anything at all in the feet, which I guess is typical in a core class, but I guess it's less articulation and more just quality of the tightness in the knees for me that concerns me. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and throw this guy's accessory on, and we'll take a look at him from there. So here we see Hot Rod with his accessory and a couple of extra. And make no mistake about it, he's a core class and he's tiny and he has limited effect compatibility. But what bit he does have, you can definitely take advantage of, and you can have a good time with this guy. And as an added bonus, I'm sure it's not just applicable to his core class wave mates in Iguanus and in Skywarp, but what I've done is I've taken their weapons and I've taken advantage of Hot Rod's ports, if you will, to give him their weapons as well. So he's kind of a super powered up Hot Rod with his sword in one hand and with their weapons in the other. And then of course you do have that 5mm port on the back, so you can use the blast effects there, and the 3mm port on the back that you can use with a flight stand or other effects if you want to. But he does have underneath each arm right here, and well, of course, where you can see where the Skywarp weapon is plugged in, he does have 3mm ports underneath those forearms as well. So you're able to take advantage of those and have a little bit of fun with this guy. So not a huge amount of effects compatibility here, and frankly his one accessory is kind of lame, but you can really power him up with some other accessories and have a good time with this guy. So now that we've displayed this, let's go ahead and get him in his alt mode and take a look at him from there. Here he is in his alt mode, and for being a core class, he really looks pretty good in his alt mode. This is a pretty cool little rendition of Hot Rod with his Hot Rod vehicle showing, and let's go ahead and get into those details and take a look at him. And we'll start right up here in the front. And I think what they've done here, again, being a core class, I think they've done a pretty good job here. You do get a little bit of sculpt work there for the headlights, or what should be the headlights. And then you have his flame job right there, a little bit of that engine showing. So it looks pretty good. The biggest fault on this mode are those ugly, ugly mushroom pegs. I hate the mushroom pegs. Why do you keep doing this to us, Hasbro? Just stop, please. I beg you. The exhaust pipes look pretty good. The windows are okay. They're nothing special, but being a core class, it's not that bad. I know a lot of what I'm saying here I'm qualifying as being a core class, but I mean, you kind of get what you pay for here. So looking at him from the back, not the worst thing I've ever seen. This hollow area is not as bad in person as it may come across on camera. And if you look closely, you actually do get taillights in there. So if you look right up under here in this area, you can see those taillights built into his feet right there. So that's not bad at all. Coming over here to the left side, it's just like the right side, ugly mushroom pegs and all. And then you got that big old wing on top, and he really does come together. This is about a Hot Wheels sized vehicle here, so it looks pretty good. There he is from the top, and whoa, there he is from the bottom. So he does have some visible head syndrome. So you can always flip him over and say hello to him if you choose to do so. All right, so yeah, really, in the grand scheme of things, for the price point, I like this alt mode. I think it looks really good. As far as the accessories in the alt mode go, there's not a whole lot you can do here. You take his sword, and then you have this port on the bottom of his sword, and you just plug it in on that peg, and point it forward or backward, your choice. And then he's got his sword up on top. Not the most elegant storage I've ever seen on a vehicle, but this works. So I have no complaints whatsoever with that. Other than that, you really don't have anything else going on. You do have a port right here, or at least it looks like a port, but I can't really do anything at all with it. There's just simply nothing that can reach in there. I mean, you could maybe, trying this impromptu, you could maybe plug the sword in right there if you wanted to, and that doesn't look horrible. So, if you do that, maybe at that point you could take one of the other weapons from one of the other figures and maybe throw it up on this right up here, or I guess you could do this. So there you've got a hot Roticorn if you want to do that. So yeah, I like the vehicle mode. Not a lot of effects compatibility here, but he looks pretty good for his price. So no big complaints there whatsoever. Let's go ahead and get into those alt mode comparisons and see how he stacks up. For our first alt mode comparison, unfortunately, I don't have a G1 Hot Rod. I mean, I do, but he's not out of the package, and I'm not going to take him out of the package. So the closest that I have is my G1 Optimus Prime, and I figured I would just bring in the Optimus part, the front end, to kind of give you a point of comparison to a G1 figure. So there you go. For a War for Cybertron comparison, here we see the Hot Rod next to the War for Cybertron Elita 1, representing the Bayverse, and doing it beautifully in car mode, not so much in bot mode, is the Hot Rod that we saw from Transformers The Last Knight. Oh yeah, here we go. Now we're getting into some Hot Rod comparisons. So on the left, of course, is that core class Hot Rod, and on the right is the Hot Rod that we got from the Titans Return line. And yeah, these guys look pretty good together. Next up is the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod, which in itself, in my opinion, is a mini masterpiece, and these two look really good together. It's almost like a take your kid to work day is what we're seeing here. So there you go. And for our final alt mode comparison, here you see the Core Class Hot Rod next to both of his Core Class Wave mates. So on the left we have the Legacy Core Class Skywarp, and on the right you have the Legacy Core Class Iguanus. Alright, that'll do it for the alt mode comparisons. But guys, I got to tell you real quick, I can't believe I almost missed this. I'm almost kicking myself here. I would have felt terrible had I actually gotten away and completely missed this. But yes, in alt mode, that's all you need. Rocket sword powered hot rod in his alt mode. There you go. Let's go ahead and get into those robot mode comparisons now. For our first robot mode comparison, this is my G1 Optimus Prime. I do not have a G1 hot rod out of the packaging, so this guy will have to suffice. Our next comparison is the Elita 1 figure we got for the War for Cybertron line. Moving right along to our next comparison, this is Hot Rod as we saw him from Transformers The Last Knight. So this is not a Studio Series figure. This is the, I believe, the Premiere Edition figure that came out with the release of that Last Knight movie. Making his way from my Titans Return shelf for a comparison here, this is the Titans Return Hot Rod. Next up, gracing us with his presence is the fantastic mainline figure. This is the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod. For our next comparison, here we see the Core Class Hot Rod with his Legacy Core Class Wave mates. On the left is the Legacy Core Class Skywarp, and on the right is the Legacy Core Class Iguanus. And for our final comparison, I thought it would be kind of fun to bring in a gaggle of Hot Rods and Optimus Primes and use them in this final segment here. And this guy in the middle, that's still in his package, this is the reissued G1 Hot Rod that was, I believe, a Walmart exclusive maybe 4 years ago, something like that. My original G1 Hot Rod is still in the packaging as well, but he is tucked away somewhere deep in storage, and he's not the easiest thing to access. So I figured that this would be a good stand-in for this final comparison here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. That'll do it for the comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. You know, I wish I could sit here and tell you that the Legacy Core Class Hot Rod is the figure of the year. This is something, run out and buy this guy right away and enjoy him. But I'm not going to say that. This figure is mostly a series of disappointments and missed shots by Hasbro and Takara. But let's go ahead and get into it a little bit and talk about the reasons why. And we will start, as we always do, with the aesthetics, the overall looks of this figure. I'm going to start with the highest of praise and say that in the alt mode, he looks wonderful. I absolutely love the car mode on this guy. He's just a Hot Wheels sized pocket car that just looks cool. He looks fast. He rolls well. And I really enjoy him in his alt mode far more than I do in this bot mode. And the reason that I say that, the bot mode is, it's all right. I mean, the paint is good. The color scheme is good. But he's just way off proportion in bot mode. His lower legs, basically everything below the knees, are absolutely huge compared to the rest of him. And I get it, the way they had to design this figure for the transformation, you know, you're going to have big bulky legs, but man, those are just too much. It's distracting to me. So my preferred mode in this guy is going to be his alt mode. I'm also going to say straight, I am sick and tired. I'm over these mushroom pegs. Hasbro, you have to stop. Takara, you have to stop. I know you're not going to. I'm just a guy out here on the internet wishing that it would end. But I hate those mushroom pegs. They look so ugly. So alt mode is really good. Bot mode leaves me lacking. Mushroom pegs suck. So for aesthetics, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10. And it's really not going to get much better from there. Let's move on to the articulation. For the most part, on this figure, you're going to be able to do what you want to do from a posing standpoint. You've got some funky areas to work through. Those shoulders are a little funky in how they operate, but you should be able to get what you need out of there. You have limited articulation in his head. You don't have anything at the waist, and you don't have anything at the feet. So you're going to have to work around those too. But for the most part, everywhere else, you should be able to get him in some decent poses. I will say, though, anecdotally, I do not enjoy posing this figure. I find it to be tedious, and there's absolutely no joy for me in that. So the articulation is okay, but I don't really enjoy posing him. So for articulation, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the accessories. You know, he comes with that sword, and that's cool. It looks neat, and it's got that nice blue paint on it that kind of makes it look like an energy sword, but I'm not buying it. It doesn't work for me. The best thing that I can say about that sword is it does have effects compatibility, and when you have him in his alt mode and you have that on the top of his car, you can put a blast effect on the back and make him look like a rocket car. That's great. Everything else, I'm just not feeling it. For me, this is kind of lame. So for accessories, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I just think they missed the mark there. Moving on to quality, this is where I have my biggest issue right now, my biggest gripe with this guy. His knee joints are distractingly loose. They are a problem right out of the box, and they're obviously not going to get better until I fix them and put some floor polish on them. But the ball joints are so loose that I need to be careful when I'm posing. I need to be careful when I'm standing this guy up, because if he's even just a bit off balance, he's going to fall backwards. So that's really distracting, and it's really annoying, and I'm not very happy about that at all. Also, the transformation joint right there at the knee, where you basically pull the legs apart and then collapse them in on each other for the alt mode. The mechanism or the pin that holds them together there is very loose. So just with a little bit of maneuvering on this guy trying to pose him, you're going to explode that leg, and you're going to get frustrated just dealing with that. So those knees are an issue. I'm really disappointed in that. Everything else is good. The paint apps are good. No molding or sculpting defects that I can see anywhere on this guy, particularly for the price point. He came with the accessory he was supposed to come with, and transformation does work. So all those things are great, but those knees are horrible. And I am going to knock him pretty hard for that, because, well, that comes right down to the stability to be able to stand the figure up. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on quality. That brings us to our final bullet, which is overall value. So a couple of things to note on this bullet. Number one, this is a re-release. So this was a Kingdom core class figure first. He was released under the War for Cybertron Kingdom line as the core class hot rod, and he's re-released in the Legacy line as the core class hot rod. So if you already have the Kingdom release of this guy, there is absolutely no reason for you to go spend your money and pick this guy up. Me personally, I'm glad I was able to pick him up, because I was never able to get a copy of the Kingdom hot rod. So I will tell you frankly that had I already had a copy of the Kingdom hot rod, I would have known what I was getting into here, and there's no way that I would have spent my money to buy the Legacy hot rod. That being said, also be careful when you buy this figure. As I've stated in the Iguanas and Skywarp reviews, those are his Legacy Wave 1 wave mates in the core class. I have two major retailers in North America where I live. That is Target and that is Walmart. They have different prices, so just buyer beware. Be careful when you're out there shopping and make sure you find the best price. Walmart has these figures for $12 US. Target has these figures for $10 US. It's only a $2 difference, but when you look at it from a percentage standpoint for the price of the figure, it is huge. So just be aware of that. Me personally, I picked this guy up off the shelf at a Target here in North America for $10 US. So overall value for me, between the quality issues, the meh factor, and the fact that he's a reissue, I'm going to give this guy a 7 out of 10 for value. So that brings us to a grand total out of a possible 50 points. The Legacy Core Class Hot Rod gets 37 out of 50, which puts him at 74%. So it's really going to be up to you guys. I'm not going to recommend this figure. So, but if you haven't had a chance to get your hands on a copy of the Kingdom figure, $10 might be worth it for you. But I think for anybody else, if you are just not feeling this guy, you're not missing out. So with that, that's going to wrap up the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to subscribe, and leave some comments. Let me know what you're thinking about the channel, about the video, or about life in general. Also, let me know if you're having trouble with these knees on your hot rod as well. I want to know if it's a systemic issue or if it's just my copy. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. Until we see you guys in the next review, take care.